So we'll start with singing Jai Radha Madhava, and then we'll be doing Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 33. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Aita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribraji Astotra Shatashi Shimad Divine Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prams Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Gamai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to all the assembled devotees. All glories to all the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Prabhupada. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. O Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tachet Mimam Dharmyam Sangramam Na Karisyasi Tatasvar Dharmam Kirtim Cha Tva Papamavapsyasi Sangramam Na Karisyasi Tatasvar Dharmam Kirtim Cha Vapsyasi. word by word. You. Imam. This. Dharma as a religious duty. Saramam. Fighting. Do not form this duty. Kirtim. Cha. Also. Hipam. Sinful reaction. Avasi. He was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his adoptive father Indra, the heavenly king. But if he abandoned the battle, not only would he neglect his specific duty as a kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name and prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from battle. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gadadha Shiva Savakta Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Rama Rama Hare. So this verse, I'll read it again. If, however, you do not perform this religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglect and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. So there's a few interesting points here. The first thing I find interesting and amusing is how Krishna's turned Arjuna's words around back at him, where Arjuna is saying, oh, if I fight in the battle, I will get sinful reactions. And Krishna stands around and says, no, if you don't fight, you'll get sinful reactions. And so in this way, Krishna has totally turned it around on Arjuna. That Arjuna's thinking, oh, fighting and killing, this is very sinful. And then Krishna is telling him, no, not fighting and not killing is actually sinful for you because of your specific duty as a kshatriya, as mentioned in the previous verse. So this is kind of humorous in a way when you think about it. And it's just Krishna's cleverness, how he can take all these things that Arjuna is saying and show him how actually the opposite's true. And sometimes it's like that in life, where we have an idea about how things are, how they are, and then by approaching, the sadhus, the spiritual master, we can actually see another perspective, an alternative way of looking at things, seeing things quite differently. And I'm sure we've all had some kind of experience like that, where we thought we saw things as they were, and then with just a slight shift in perspective, we got to see things in a totally different way. And I hope those dogs are not disturbing you. You can think of how, I'm assuming you can hear them. These headphones are pretty good at cutting out noise, but it just reminds me of Prabhupada in 26 Second Avenue. There was all these dogs barking and police cars and fire engines going past and lots of honking. Yeah, anyhow. I think this place is a little bit less windy, so I'll just rest here for a moment. So this is how Christians turned around Arjuna's argument. Now we know that Arjuna made different arguments. One of his main arguments was committing sin. Other arguments, I won't remember them all off the top of my head, but so sin was one of them. Another one was enjoyment. How will we be able to enjoy without our family members? The other one is about destruction of the family, that if we fight this battle, it's going to ruin. The warriors will die and their wives will be left unprotected. The children will grow up without fathers. It'll cause a disaster, like we can see today. So many kids that grow up without fathers, they don't grow up so great as a general rule. So that's 3 reasons. Another one, fourth reason, trying to remember. I certainly remember doubt was one of them. Maybe the 5th one. So here, Krishna is emphasizing on the point. There's a couple of things he's bringing up here, actually. First is that if you don't do your duty, that is a sin. So even though you might think that killing is a sinful thing, it's not necessarily the case. Everyone has a different dharma according to their, varnashram situation and according to the circumstances, what Krishna wants. So Krishna has arranged that Arjuna was a kshatriya, and he wanted him to fight in this righteous war. So fighting in the war is not sinful, but if he neglects the duty that Krishna has given him, not only in terms of directly, Krishna's instruction, it's the ultimate dharma, as we hear at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharma prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. That ultimately all the dharma and duties and everything, they don't matter. What really matters is you do what Krishna wants. But even considering from a material point of view, Arjuna is duty bound to fight for the right cause. The Kauravas and Duryodhana had usurped the throne illegally, basically. He didn't. He was not meant to have the throne according to the proper rules of dharma and so on. He acquired the kingdom through dubious means, and actually Yudhisthira was the rightful king. And so therefore Krishna wanted to re-establish him. And of course also the Pandavas were devotees, whereas Duryodhana, his mood was different. So here we can see that, what are the qualifications of Arjuna? He was such a great fighter that he could fight Lord Shiva and win. Now you might think, how's that possible? Lord Shiva is, beyond the demigods. He's, almost at the level of Lord Vishnu. So how's it possible that Arjuna could beat him? And as in most of these things, it's because Arjuna was pleased by his fighting and his prowess and his spirit, that he allowed him to, he conceded victory or conceded defeat to Arjuna, and therefore, being pleased with Arjuna, he gave him a special weapon, the Pashu Pata Astra. Pashu means animal, and Astra means weapon, so something to do with animals. I can't remember exactly. So he was given these blessings. Dronacharya gave him blessings, and he gave him a weapon which could kill even his teacher. And this is how, we're talking about Arjuna's dharma, but we're looking here also at Dronacharya. He's following the Brahmana's dharma. Brahmana's dharma means you teach everyone who's qualified, and you don't hold back any of the information. So Dronacharya knew that he would be killed by Krsnendu, but he didn't hold back any of the knowledge. The Brahmana's mood is a detached mood. That my duty is to teach, and I will teach. And if it means that I'll be killed by that knowledge, then he's not worried, because as a Christian speaker I've been listening to a little bit in recent times, she was making a great point that death is not the worst thing, because we know that there's life beyond death. And more important than trying to preserve our life, this one lifetime, is to preserve our dharma, particularly our Krishna consciousness. So anyway, Dronacharya, he was following the dharma of a brahmana, and the brahmana's duty is to teach freely, without envy and without restriction. Prabhupada said that he was speaking to Yamuna. He said that you should teach whatever you've learned. Particularly, he was talking about her cooking. He says, because if you don't, if you hold back the knowledge, then you'll become envious. And this is how the fall down of the brahmanas took place. We can see nowadays that there's not really brahmanas, that the kings, because the brahmanas were not sharing the knowledge with them, trying to maintain a superior position, then the kshatriyas became disillusioned with the brahmanas and became independent. And then when they were independent of the brahmanas, they were making wrong decisions and acting selfishly. And therefore the vaishyas, or even the sudras, the workers, became upset with the kshatriyas, and so they rebelled, just like the French Revolution. They'd had enough of these kings and queens and so on, royalty, that were not, acting in the best interest of the people. And so they had a revolution. And it all came back, starting from the point where the brahmanas became miserly and weren't sharing the knowledge that they had. So we can see that Dronacharya was following this principle, even at the cost of his own life. He taught Drishtadyumna, knowing full well that he would be the one that would cause him to die. And he gave Arjuna weapons that could be used to kill him also. So this is the detachment of the brahmana. They know they need to teach, but they're not concerned for their own welfare as much as for the benefit of everyone. And then it's saying here, Prabhupada's saying that Arjuna was qualified in so many ways. The way he puts it, he was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including Indra, the heavenly king. So it's not to say that Arjuna went to university and got a degree in fighting, but in effect he did. That he showed his prowess in so many ways, that he was given blessings and weapons and special training and knowledge from other great warriors and great personalities. So he was supremely qualified to fight in this battle for righteous purposes. And Krishna's saying that if you don't fight, it's a sin. Now, how's that? Because here's the one person who can make a difference, and he's walking away from his opportunity to make things right. If he doesn't fight and perform his duty, then our dharma will prevail. Duryodhana's side will, still keep the power, and so on. Of course, ultimately Arjuna did fight, and Krishna explained to him that everything's destined to happen. Now, are you going to be part of it or not? And this is also part of our understanding that Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement is predicted to be victorious for the next 10,000 years. Are we going to be part of it or not? That's our choice. Our actions, we're not the doer. If we become pure, then yes, we can get some credit for being an instrument for Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And if we don't become pure, if we don't endeavor to practice Krishna consciousness seriously and participate in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, then we're the ones who miss out. But it's bound to happen. So the same way with Arjuna, the battle had already been decided. Krishna had already arranged everything, and now Arjuna can take the credit. And he was the one that was supremely qualified to do it. And for him not to do it aside from the ultimate sin of disobeying Lord Krishna's will, he had been given all these qualifications for just these times. There's a saying, what is it? For times such as this. Or sometimes people say, yeah, I'm here for it. I was born for this. So Arjuna was born for this battle of Kurukshetra, and his whole life was leading up to it. So for him to not fight is very ungrateful. He'd been given all these gifts from his teachers, from his father, Lord Shiva and Lord Indra, Dronacharya, and many others. He'd been given all the assets. And for him not to use those assets, in the service of Krishna and in the service of Dharma is very ungrateful. And what's the word? Miserly. If you're given a great gift and you don't use it in its proper way, you're a miser. Just like Prabhupada said to Yamuna, you've got knowledge, share it with others. And particularly for all of us, followers of Prabhupada, we've been given the holy name and the Krishna consciousness process. If we don't share this with others and teach others about it, we've been very miserly. We have the greatest gift, but we're not using it. We're not helping people with it. So in the same way, Arjuna had been given all these gifts from a Kshatriya's point of view. He'd been given the military knowledge, training, weapons, and so on, all these assets. And for him not to use it when this opportunity came for the right purpose, it's miserly, and therefore it's sinful. And ungrateful to those who've given them all these things. So this is a key point of this verse. And then Prabhupada's also mentioning, and Krishna's mentioning, you will lose your reputation as a fighter. And at the end of the verse, Prabhupada's saying, if he abandoned the fight, not only would he neglect, if he abandoned the battle, not only would he neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name and prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell. He would go to hell, not by fighting, but by withdrawing from battle. So for a Kshatriya, reputation is extremely important. And in particular here, as I was mentioning, he's been given all of these great assets by these great personalities. And for him just to walk away from all of that would be very shameful. And others would say that, look at this person. One of the acharyas, I think, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that Krishna is saying to Arjuna, you eunuch, come on. People, they will call you a eunuch for just leaving the battle. They'll say that you have no courage, that you're just being a wimp. And, this is true. That when you have been given power that you can use to serve others and you don't use that, that's a great sin. And it's valid that people would consider, that it will ruin your reputation because, you've squandered such a great asset. Just like imagine if you have so much money, that you could use for, building a temple or printing books or spreading Krishna consciousness in some way. And then you just go, money is the root of evil, and you burn all that $1 million. People think, what, you're crazy. You're an idiot. What's wrong with you? So we can think of it a similar way with Arjuna here, that he's been given this wealth of resources to fight in Krishna's battle, and now he just wants to walk away. So no, that would not be good for his reputation, and also it would actually be sinful. So we'll just end there. If anyone likes to leave any comments, I can reply to the comments. If you're watching it as a replay, then I keep an eye on the comments, check in on them. And if you have any thoughts on anything I've said, I can reply in the comments there. And it's also just nice if you say Hare Krishna and I know who is listening. It's inspiring to know. So I hope that these words were helpful, and from our point of view, let's remember the great gift, the great wealth, the great asset and resources that we've been given that can really help people. So let's not become a eunuch. Let's not be called a eunuch or called a wimp or called whatever names we might be called for not using the gift that we've been given. Let's practice it and share it with others for the benefit of the whole world. And then, we will be glorious and Prabhupada's glory will be amplified. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.